I write this standing in front of the bathroom mirror, where the bulb above me hums as if an insect is trapped inside. The glass is fogged from the shower I took hours ago, and with my finger, I clear a small circle, just wide enough to see my own eyes. The air is damp and heavy, as though someone else already breathed it before me. I whisper to myself, this is a confession, not an excuse. Stories that begin with love rarely end where they should. Mine began with warmth, such steady, soothing warmth that I mistook it for light. The first months felt like slipping into an old sweater that fit perfectly. He laughed at the same jokes I did, drank coffee exactly the way I liked it, and held the umbrella so close that I could smell rain clinging to his coat. We were every cliché that people mock in commercials, two faces pressed together against the world, sharing fries, swapping playlists, making promises with our fingertips instead of words. He mapped my life with a tenderness that felt like safety. He showed me shortcuts through the city, pointed out a bench where sunsets bled like oil into the river, found a theater with seats so soft I could drift into sleep before the movie even began. His hand on my shoulder felt like a weighted blanket, pressing the anxiety out of me. I told him stories I had never told anyone, and believed that trust was simply a matter of running out of space for fear. But rivers always reveal their banks. The boundaries appeared without fanfare, subtle at first. He asked me to share my location so he wouldn't worry. Sensible, I thought, and I shared it. He spoke about honesty as cement, said passwords were proof of faith. I laughed, called him dramatic, but gave them anyway. What harm could it do? Slowly his voice began to edit me. He suggested that bold colors didn't suit me, that muted tones brought out my eyes. I emptied my wardrobe into a grave of grays. He mentioned that some of my friends seemed exhausting, that I always came home drained after seeing them. Soon my group chats grew silent. He said some of my posts might send the wrong impression. I deleted them with one click. Each suggestion came wrapped in care, and I accepted it as love. Jealousy crept in disguised as concern. He asked why I replied late, why I laughed at a coworker's joke, why I added a smiley face to a text. He reminded me that others didn't understand me like he did, that I shouldn't let them misinterpret my intentions. His tone wasn't angry. At first, it was guiding, instructive, persuasive. But I learned to watch my words, to measure my expressions like doses of medicine. 3 times a day, swallowed with water, careful never to overdose. He convinced me not to raise my voice in public, not to linger after work, not to draw attention. We became the perfect couple who never left the house together. At some point, I don't know exactly when, I stopped recognizing the woman in the mirror. My shoulders curled inward, protecting something fragile beneath the skin. My silence often answered before I could. My laughter had edges, sharp enough to cut, but never loud enough to be noticed. One night I traced a red line across my collarbone where my bag strap had pressed, and it looked like a collar. That was when the thought first bloomed, poisonous but undeniable. This isn't love. This is training disguised as tenderness. The breaking point wasn't dramatic, it was metallic. We went to a party with his friends, and I chose the shirt he once called safe. I spoke sparingly, smiled carefully, laughed in half-tones. I held a glass with both hands so I wouldn't gesture too much. When the conversation turned to relationships, he used me as an example. He described me as devoted, obedient, loyal to the point of self-erasure. His friends laughed. Some clapped him on the back. My cheeks burned, but not with pride. It felt like being displayed in a glass case, a trophy of submission polished for others to admire. That night, when we returned home, he asked if I was proud. My mouth said yes before my mind could form no. Inside, something cracked. Escape came later, not in a sudden explosion, but in the quiet decision to no longer be soil for his roots. I packed slowly, carefully, as if preparing evidence. I left notes to myself hidden in books. You deserve to breathe. You deserve to walk unchained. Eventually, I walked out. He didn't chase me. He didn't need to. The echo of his voice followed anyway. Now, months later, I stare into this mirror and trace my reflection like a stranger's. I should feel free, but the air is still suffocating. The bruises on my spirit haven't faded. Worse, I notice something else, something colder. I catch myself repeating his habits. I scroll through messages from people I love and feel the urge to question their tone, their timing. I draft replies laced with suspicion, then delete them, horrified. But the thought remains. I want control. I want reassurance. I want what he wanted from me. The truth claws at me as I write this. I walked out of the cage, but I carry its bars inside me. The infection spread. I survived, yes, but survival twisted me. I am not only scarred, I am becoming the thing I escaped, and I don't know how to stop. I told myself leaving him would be the end. I believed the door I closed behind me would also close the echoes. But echoes are not polite. They travel through walls, seep through cracks, crawl into bed with you. The first nights alone were not freedom. They were silence so thick it felt like suffocation. I would lie on the mattress, staring at the ceiling, expecting his weight beside me. My body flinched at shadows. My breath caught when my phone buzzed. No name appeared, but still I froze, waiting for reprimand. I told myself, "You are free." But the word sounded hollow, as if someone else had scripted it for me. At work, people congratulated me in whispers. "You did the right thing," they said, as if survival were a medal. They couldn't see my hands under the desk, trembling. They couldn't hear the new rhythm of my thoughts, suspicion, doubt, control. His voice had taken residence in my skull. I didn't need him to accuse me anymore. I accused myself. One afternoon, I found myself scrolling through a friend's social media, dissecting her posts with surgical cruelty. Why didn't she invite me to that gathering? Who was she smiling at in that photo? I felt my chest tighten with the same jealous heat that once belonged to him. My thumb hovered over the message button. I wanted to ask, to demand, to corner her into confession. The impulse terrified me. I threw my phone onto the couch, but the urge lingered like a phantom limb. Nights grew worse. I dreamed of mirrors. In each one, my reflection spoke with his voice, not mine. Sometimes it smiled at me, sometimes it scolded, sometimes it whispered things I can't repeat. I would wake with sweat dripping down my spine, tasting rust on my tongue. In the morning, when the world expected me to function, I painted on calmness like cheap foundation, fragile and cracking by noon. Control. That was his drug, and now it's mine. I test myself in small ways. I ask coworkers unnecessary questions just to feel their answers bend toward me. I notice the tremor in my tone when I speak with men, how I calculate pauses so they lean closer, how I mark their attention like tallies on a wall. I tell myself it's harmless, that I'm only proving I'm still alive. But deep down, I know I'm feeding the infection. The loneliness amplifies it. Friends invite me out, and I refuse. Not because I'm afraid of him finding me, but because I'm afraid of myself. Afraid I'll police their laughter, their glances, their time the way he policed mine. Afraid I'll smile, and beneath the smile, sharpen my knives of judgment. I have become the warden of my own isolation. One evening, I stared too long at a text from a man I barely knew. Polite, casual, innocent. He suggested coffee. My first thought wasn't excitement, it was suspicion. Why now? What does he want? My fingers typed and deleted 3 different replies, each one dripping with interrogation. I didn't send them, but the poison was already there, running through my veins. Sometimes I catch myself rehearsing his phrases, the exact ones he once used to cut me down. Who were you with? Why didn't you answer sooner? Do you think I'm stupid? I mouth them silently, watching my reflection. My lips move like his lips once did. The mirror doesn't show my face anymore. It shows an inheritance of cruelty. I try to fight it. Journals fill with apologies I never send. My bookshelf leans with self-help manuals, their spines cracked from desperate reading. Therapists nod at me with practiced sympathy, but their words feel thin, like gauze on a wound that won't clot. I want redemption, but some days I crave revenge more. Not on him, on anyone, on the whole world for letting me rot in that cage until I became part of it. And yet there are moments, small, deceitful, when I feel almost normal. A morning where the coffee tastes rich, where the bus arrives on time, where the city air feels crisp instead of choking. For a few minutes, I believe I am healing. Then I catch myself checking the timestamp on a friend's reply, feeling irritation coil in my stomach. The cycle restarts, hope collapses. I don't know what is worse, what he did to me or what I am doing to myself now. He trained me into silence, but I have trained myself into suspicion. I escaped his cage, but I built one of my own design. His chains still clink in the rhythm of my heartbeat. So tonight I stand again before the mirror, writing on fogged glass with my breath. I confess to no one but myself I am both victim and perpetrator. The toxins didn't vanish when I left him. They fermented inside me. And now I see the truth, the cruelest truth of all. I am no longer only haunted by him, I am becoming him. I thought survival would taste like victory. But months have passed, and the aftertaste is bitter, metallic, like blood I cannot spit out. Tonight the mirror greets me again, and I see not freedom but a hollowed-out creature wearing my face. It began with a man who wanted nothing more than kindness. He offered me his patience, his laughter, his time, and I, infected, ruined, poisoned it all. The first time I heard myself snap at him, the sound froze me. He had asked gently why I hadn't answered his message the night before, a normal question. But my reply lashed out like a whip. Why do you need to know? Can't you trust me for once? His eyes widened, not in anger, but in confusion. The exact same look I once gave my abuser. My stomach twisted. I wanted to apologize, but another voice rose inside me, cold and triumphant. Good. Now he knows how it feels. That voice never left. Soon I began watching him like a hunter. I checked his phone when he showered. I tracked his online status, timed the gaps between his responses. Each silence felt like betrayal. Every smile he gave another woman felt like treason. I sculpted arguments out of thin air. I cornered him with questions that were not questions but accusations. Who were you with? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Do you think I'm blind? He tried to soothe me, the way I once tried to soothe the storm of another. His hand reached for mine. I recoiled. The touch burned. One night at dinner, he laughed at a story a waitress told. Something inside me snapped. My voice rose, sharp as glass, cutting the air until the restaurant fell silent. I humiliated him in front of strangers, accusing him of flirting, of betrayal. He sat frozen, eyes lowered, cheeks red with shame. In that moment, I saw him as I once saw myself, caged by fear, by disbelief, by love turned toxic. And here is the cruelest confession. I felt powerful. Power was the drug I never expected to crave. It seeped into me, disguised as protection. I told myself I was guarding my heart, refusing to be hurt again. But the truth is simpler, darker. I wanted control. I wanted someone else to bleed the way I bled. He left, of course. They always leave. He walked out with nothing but silence, and I didn't stop him. I couldn't. My mouth opened, but no apology came. Only rage, only poison. By the time the door clicked shut, the infection had spread too far. Now I sit here, staring at the mirror. The fog has cleared. The reflection is sharp, merciless. I search for scars on my skin, but they are hidden deep inside. My voice has changed. My smile has edges. My silence is no longer protection. It is a weapon. I wanted freedom, but what I carried with me was contagion. His chains rusted away, but their imprint carved grooves into my soul. And in those grooves, my own cruelty now runs like water, finding every channel, every weakness. This diary is not redemption. It is a tombstone for the woman I used to be. I know now I am both victim and perpetrator, prisoner and guard, wound and knife. I escaped him, but I did not escape what he made of me. I spread it forward, like ash carried on the wind. So tonight I whisper into the glass, and my reflection whispers back the words I dread most. I have become the monster I feared.